Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, July 4th. Upcoming is well above normal temperatures continuing this weekend and next week, and potentially even getting hotter later next week. Thunderstorms are expected to return possibly to the Sierra Front and northwest Nevada, into Idaho Sunday, going into Monday, and also into parts of Utah on Monday as well. For fuels, we still have our Great Basin Fuel and Fire Behavior Advisory in effect for eastern Nevada, much of Utah and the Arizona Strip, and fire danger has been moderated in the north from the recent cooler and wetter conditions, especially in the mountain areas, but is rapidly changing over the coming days into the week, and we will see that increasing. Quick look at our Great Basin Fuel and Fire Behavior Advisory, which is available on our Great Basin website. You can see the area here. We have seen, obviously, extreme fire behavior with many of our fires in that region. Looking at our fire potential impacts for the next few days, today temperatures will warm significantly from what we saw yesterday, although winds will remain light the next couple of days, but will be increasing closer to Monday in the southern areas. The greater concern is the increase in thunderstorms. We do have some weak upper level waves, which will be moving north through California. So this is definitely creating some uncertainty with respect to the thunderstorms, but the better potential on Sunday will be from parts of the Sierra Front into northwest Nevada and maybe into central Idaho. And then by Monday, moving up into Idaho, but also moisture pushing into Utah for a return of some lightning as well. Right now, overall lightning amounts look on the low side, but that potential certainly is there. And with our very dry fuels and critical conditions, especially across the south and into Nevada, that will be the main concern. Looking at the last 24 hours, just some isolated thunderstorms, a couple strikes here along the Sierra Front, and also some isolated to scattered storms from northeast Nevada into southeast Idaho and even northern Utah and Wyoming with very limited moisture. Over the last 7 days, we did have that cold front that moved through last weekend, which did bring above normal precipitation to the north and down into northern Nevada, but very dry conditions, obviously, across the southern half of the Great Basin. Over the last 24 hours, we had 19 new fires reported for 223 acres. Many of these new fires that were greater than 100 acres were up north in the lower elevations of Idaho. Otherwise, over 6,000 acres of growth on our large fires, and Nick and Great Basin are still at PL4. Quick look at the morning satellite. Some light smoke generally across Utah, obviously associated with our large fires. We could see a bit more smoke that's dispersed a little bit further west in Utah with these lighter winds. Otherwise, generally clear skies today. You can see the smoke impacts for today and tomorrow. Again, drifting a little bit further west with those lighter winds, both today and tomorrow in Utah, and obviously continuing over central and eastern areas. Looking at our current fire danger conditions, ERCs continue to rise and are above the 90th percentile across much of Utah, eastern and southern Nevada, and still generally below the 80th percentile in much of the north, although some areas are drying out and popping up above the 80th percentile in parts of Wyoming and eastern Idaho and areas that didn't see quite as much precipitation from the recent cold front. And you can see from our graphs here on the right, all fire danger will be increasing significantly with these hot and dry conditions expected for the next week. And even up north, these areas will return and even exceed some of the values we saw prior to the cold front. So that will be something to note as we go in the coming week. Looking at the weather pattern over the next few days, we do have high pressure building in the southwest with a weak presence of low pressure off the northwest coast. The main story will be this moisture pushing north. It's very high based, so any moisture we get will generally be in the form of cloud cover or high base lightning. So it does move up into parts of western Nevada tomorrow, and then maybe some cloud cover in Utah before we get a better chance of lightning. You can see the high risk we have for Sunday in the west, and then in Monday in southwest Idaho, but also in parts of Utah, along with a high risk of wind as the winds start to increase by Monday. However, right now, it looks like wind gusts generally in the low 30s, but definitely breezy and impacting some of our fires. I will say the lightning, our confidence is pretty low at this time. We could see these areas shift. It really is dependent on upper level waves moving north, and those are really hard to track a couple days out. So just stay tuned for that. Looking at the wind gusts and relative humidity, very dry conditions today with widespread single digits. We do see some moderation Sunday and Monday as that moisture moves up and we get a little bit of cloud cover and some isolated storms. But again, with the isolated lightning brings the threat of new ignitions. So probably not a moderating factor for relative humidity in that perspective. Otherwise, winds generally light today, starts to increase tomorrow, and really more so on Monday, but again, most of the gusts kind of in the upper 20s to low 30s. Precipitation, very spotty, so anything we do see with lightning will certainly not be bringing much precipitation, very localized and generally light amounts. As we go Tuesday into Thursday, the ridge really starts to dominate. Temperatures get quite hot later in the week, so that'll be something to watch with very dry conditions. We don't have any high risk. We may have to look at some burning environment high risk depending on what happens with the temperatures and this area of high pressure. Unfortunately, with the orientation of the high west to east here from offshore of California across the southwest, that does block any moisture from moving north, so certainly not looking at any monsoon moisture. Again, winds under high pressure remain generally light, and relative humidity will continue to drop as we go through the week with those hotter temperatures, so widespread single digits expected mid to late week. Really no precipitation on the map for the Great Basin from Tuesday through Thursday, and temperatures will increase significantly today and remain hot going into next week, but may even get even hotter as we go later next week. A quick look at our 7-day significant fire potential outlook. In summary, the only high risk we have is for Sunday and Monday for a mix of lightning and wind. And again, those areas may shift or expand, just depends on what these upper level waves do. So a really tricky forecast going into Sunday, Monday. And then Tuesday through the end of the week, looking at dry and hot conditions. 6 to 10-day outlook does not give any relief to that pattern. Still hot temperatures, dry conditions for the time of year through July 13th. So any monsoon moisture we are looking at will be more mid to late month, and we'll kind of see how that develops. That concludes the briefing for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.